Ms. Lights, welcome to the house.
Thanks for having me. This is so nice.
It's fun, right?
I haven't been to your joint yet.
Well, listen, you've been invited before. Nice. I'm glad you're going to perform for us tonight.
I know. I'm excited.
The idea is I know fans are important to you, and artists often say it. I've seen it play out in your life for sure. But let's get right in their eyes. Let's see the whites of their eyes, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like this
I love that. This
is about that, and I'm grateful that you're.
I don't get to do these kind of intimate shows very often, let alone doing new songs. We're doing a couple new songs tonight that don't even exist in the world yet, so it's the first time at all.
Have you not played them at all yet?
Not at all.
Are they going to suck, or are you going to nail it? Are you? The years I've known you, you've always been very chill and very fun and very casual. But are you like that when it comes to playing new songs? Are you anxiety? Are you freaking out?
It's a little bit of both. I think I like when I first started music, I get a lot more anxious, and over the years, it's too complicated to be anxious all the time. So I just don't worry about it. I just kind of walk when I get frustrated.
Do you do a lot of reading and self-care and work on that part of your brain and that part of your life?
Yeah, more so recently than I ever have in my whole life. Like I've started working out and doing yoga, which I never, ever have done. And it's been awesome for me. What triggered it? I think ever since I had a kid, your body changes and you just suddenly have to work a bit more for it. And I don't think I ever took care of myself, and eventually life catches up to you and you realize you have to, Otherwise, you're just not healthy and you're not happy. Yeah, and your brain changes too, doesn't it? Your brain changes too, and my diet is different now. My parents are fully vegan, so it's very much influencing my way of life too. I'm proud of your parents. They're great. They have this massive permiculture garden in the back, and their hope is in 5 years we can live off this garden. That's amazing. Yeah, this summer, for the first time, I ate spinach and kale that I grew myself. What? Because I'm fully vegan as well. Oh, amazing.
And I'll tell you, it's quite a thing when you eat the food that you grow. And I know that sounds crazy because people listening to us around the country, farmers, have done this forever. Sure. But we haven't done that. Never. And I remember there was a time where I grew some things out on my porch, and that actually works its way into the comic too, to have a little porch garden. And I was living up in Davisville here in Toronto, and the salad never tasted so good. It was 2 salads worth of food, and then it was done. But it was for great. The longest time, the only thing you would grow on your porch that you would consume would be weed. And the guys that I know, that's what. And now you can get it at a store, which is so crazy. It is crazy. You mentioned your parents. Tell me about them. Virginia's your mom, right? Yeah. Virginia and Eric. Eric, yeah. A couple of great people. They taught me everything I know about the way you should enjoy life. My dad is an architect, and he actually specializes in green architecture. So that influenced this comic as well, because he was always going back and forth with me on different kinds of architecture, and one very apocalyptic form of architecture is called Brutalism. So that works its way into the comic as well. So he's always giving me books and resources and stuff. But at the end of the day, he knows exactly what changes need to happen in the world in order to be more sustainable and to be a greener world. And he's working on that, I think, from his perspective. And now my mother she's kind of evolved more into a hippie as life has progressed. And it's rubbing off on me for sure. I think there's a great respect for the earth. And Skin and Earth is what this comic series is called. Yeah. 6 issues? 6 issues. 3 are, as of this week, 3 are officially out. You're earning it 10 hours per page. Yeah, you got all the writing, all the drawing, all the lettering. You're doing all of the work on this. It's quite a workload. And there's not 1 minute of it that I don't like. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it, and it's fun. I think that's what keeps people in comics. It's very a thankless job. I know there's not very much money in the comic world, but people do it because they love it, and you can express a lot. But this now, it's not just a comic, it's a world. It's a world. There could be movies, there could be TV shows, there could be merch, there could be everything. I have 1,000 ideas running through my head all the time about it. How's that working out? It keeps me up at night, but it's good. I've developed insomnia just creating this world. Once you open the floodgates of creativity, you can't shut it down. Would you? I mean, you would play you if this was to go. I don't think I would. You wouldn't? I don't think I would. I need a no-name actor. I was going to suggest Idris Elba or James Franco. Oh, James Franco would play a great me. James Franco was sitting in that chair you're in this morning. When you're sitting in right now. Was he this morning? He was here. Oh, man. But I like this chair. Do you not have a picture of James Franco in your guitar case? I do, actually. And it was given to me by a radio station, and it said, highlights on. It's not even from him. Oh, it's a fake. It's like a picture of him, and they wrote it to me because they knew I liked him. But yeah, I'm a big Franco fan. He's got to be in it somehow. I'll make a character for him. You have to do that, then you can cast him. So if you wouldn't play you, who do you want to play you? It would have to be a no-namer, a brand new person. And reason being, I'm not a good actor. Is that true? I'm a horrible actor, yeah. I've auditioned for so much stuff, case in point, Instant Star. Yes. Auditioned for that show 15 years ago. For the role that Alex got? For the lead role, yeah. And didn't get it. And
fast forward to season 4, I'm writing songs for it.
That's right. Alex was singing your song, right?
Yeah. So it's just funny how life switches things around. But yeah, I've auditioned for so many shows. I just suck. I'm just a bad actor. Maybe someday I'll get better at it. But
listen, people must know their limitations,
you know
right?
what? That's the thing. I'm like, I'll branch out into another area. Comics.
That's all right. But are you the kind of person that hates the fact that you're bad at something and wants to get better at it?
Yeah, to a certain degree. But I think you can exercise your creative skill in 1,000 ways, and you have to kind of accept when there's areas that you're not good at.
For all the things that you think about and all the things you want to do you have a driving force? Is there, like, what are you about?
You know, it's probably become more apparent with the comic aspect of this project, because you can say a lot more in a comic than you can in music, and that's a big statement. But I think with music, you are having to balance two very extreme angles. One is what you want to say, and one is what's going to be accessible, right, especially in pop music. So I spend a lot of time having to juggle those two worlds, and that's actually the challenge with songwriting, I think, is learning how to say something deep without sounding complicated and trying to go over people's heads, and you can easily do that. But the skill is trying to bring both together. But with the comic component, and this is why comics are one of my favorite mediums, is because you can talk. It's on the forefront of social issues. It's one of the most progressive mediums. Like, you can talk about something that really matters to you without beating somebody over the head with it. I was in a panel watching G. Willow Wilson speak, who writes Miss Marvel. It's this awesome comic for. I think it's great for young teenagers, and it's about this Muslim superhero, basically Miss Marvel, and on all the tribulations she faces in society as it is, let alone discovering through puberty that she has superpowers. You know what I mean? Right. So it's just a really great story. And she said she speaks on. I learned a lot about that culture through this comic, and that's her culture as well. So she was able to speak on all these things that matter without, writing a paper on it. You know what I mean? It's just a really easy way to voice a lot of things that you want to show the world. So there's a lot of commentary in this book about things that matter to me.
So what are you learning about yourself then through this?
So the base idea and what has become sort of the brass tacks of the story is depression. Okay. The story of inner turmoil and what you have to deal with and overcome. It's like halfway through the story, she meets a very dark, beautiful friend, and it becomes her greatest love and her biggest weakness, and it takes her over, and she has to go within herself to overcome it and emerge stronger for it. And these are things that I believe are possible, and stuff that I feel like I've experienced as well. So that all works its way into the imagery and the visuals, and that's the underlying storyline. But once the world was created, there's other commentary that's been important to me, like corporate greed plays in. There's this big corporation that has caused really a great divide in the class system and the environment, which is an important issue to me. This is 400 or 500 years down the road. I haven't really specified the timeline, but this is an Earth. And it's sort of after we've taken and taken until there's nothing left. And this last bastion of humanity still continues to take to support their opulent lifestyles. And sort of everyone lives in this existence devoid of hope because they know it's all going to end. And she's still looking for that.
Did all that come from when you were a kid, or did you sort of stumble on some of this as you got older?
A lot of it as I got older, for sure. I'm more aware of who I am and my interests now than I ever was, I think.
Did you always like who you were? Depression is a tough thing to struggle with, because that doesn't often lend itself to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably the bulk of when I dealt with that was when I first moved to Toronto about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, and I was living on my own for the first time. And I think to understand yourself, you have to be alone, and you have to have time where you can self-reflect. And I think one of the biggest things that people miss out on in life is that time alone to self-reflect, because that's the only way you can work through those dormant issues to a certain degree.
Sometimes it's very difficult to find your path through that, though.
It's so difficult. It's blinding. And I think that's one of the topics within this book, is you don't know what's real and what's not. And you don't know what's your friend and what's not. And I think it's just time to look inward, One
of the great fears for most people is when your brain chemistry betrays you.
Yeah.
It's nothing in the outside world, right? It's just what's happening in you.
It's exactly, you're in a bubble. It's like this very close perspective. And I think, since having a kid, it's expanded what I know of myself, and that's helped a lot.
That's got to be a lot of fun to learn yourself as you're learning what this kid's turning into,
Yeah,
right?
because suddenly I'm not a narcissist anymore,
Were you a narcissist before?
I think everybody is. When your life is revolving around yourself, you're naturally forced to become a narcissist.
Well, and also we're in an incredibly unhealthy business, and certainly in the pop world, where so much about it is what's your Instagram relationship, and how, that can really fuck with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we have this view of ourselves that we think is what people want. And that's what we put out there, you know.
Do you go through that with this?
Yeah, to a certain degree. Like I've come to understand myself and not put so much pressure on myself in terms of what I think I'm allowed to do. And that's taken years. You know, when I was just a kid getting into the industry, I was like, what do people want of me? What do I need to do? How do I need to look? And I think eventually you start to come to terms with who you are. I've had a decent sense of that from the beginning, but I've gone through enough turmoil to have to figure it out. But yeah, I think it's just figuring out as you go.
I can't wait for you to play. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.